morning. Almost all the kids have joined in and a few will keep joining in. But a very, very good evening to all of you. Yeah, the winter is gone and now the warm weather is setting in. I was out all day today and I'm off my sweater and back to my sleeveless dresses. It's getting very hot in Pune now, isn't it? But then we're going to make this afternoon a lot of fun while you're sitting at home away from the sun with a nice book event. And today we have with us the author and illustrator and of course the publishers, which is Kalpavriksh. And today's book, we all know what the name of the book is today?
Yes, Vaishali auntie. Yes.
The poster, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so what is the name of the book?
Pedru and the Big Boom. Pedru and the Big Boom. Pedru and the Big Boom.
Okay. Were you all able to get any information about this book all by yourselves anywhere?
No, I got it from.
No. Of course, it's a new book, and I was very happy for the author because in the last 2 years, most of the book launches have been happening online. And people like us who work with children were waiting to go and meet children, and interact with them and show them our books. And our author and the illustrator, that is Nandita and Niharika, were very lucky that the small time period which they got before the Omicron scared all of us, they actually got to have a lovely book launch at the book festival. Yeah, and then again everything shut down, and then again you're waiting for everything to open, right? So then I was having a chat with Sujata and Tanya from Kalpavriksh and with Nandita as well, and we decided that, like always, in the last 2 years, we've been having book launches and book events with our children online. So why not we do this one as well? And we hope that this would be one of the last online events that we have to do with children. And then we can meet all of you, right? So let me begin today's.
It will be so much fun if we meet offline.
I completely agree with you. It will be so much fun, no, if we meet online. So what I'm going to do is, without taking more of anyone else's time, I'm straight away going to get into the introductions. And we have with us the author, Nandita Dakuna, and we have Niharika Shanwar. And I got this book about a month or so back from Kalpavriksh. And I read it and I really, really enjoyed the story. And I was hoping that, Nandita could come here and share the story with all of you. And she said, why not just me, not me? Let me call Niharika as well. And that's when we started this lovely sessions wherein we always invite authors and illustrators to come together so that you can have an experience of the entire book. So Nandita, even you are not aware. I was talking while, I had logged in a little early and I was telling Niharika and Sujata that we have so many things in common, just like you. I'm also very fond of bird watching.
Lovely.
And you're off to see flamingos tomorrow.
I was out all morning today, taking the girls, and we enjoyed ourselves some morning of bird watching. As it so happens, we saw sea of flamingos. So we've had a wonderful morning, a great start to the day already, and it's just going to get better.
Awesome. Because we are going to be going.
I wish I could see flamingos too.
Yeah, we are going to go next week, and we're going to stay overnight.
Okay.
So it's going to be a lot of fun. And Nandita is very fond of reading. She's very fond of writing. In fact, one of her books, I don't know, some of you must have attended the session as well, which is a book, Nandita, the Sundar book, right?
The Miracle on Sundarbag.
The Miracles on Sundarbag Street. I think some of the kids here in Katha Mahfil attended that book launch.
Yes.
That, children won an award this year. So I think we should give a big round of applause, isn't it, Nandita, for that?
I launched it here at the story station about a year back, yeah.
About 1 year back, we launched it here with all of you and it received an award. And the best part is Nandita loves writing for children. For 14 years, she worked in a corporate field, okay? And from there, she moved to doing what she loves doing best, which is writing for children. But apart from writing, she also plays the piano. She was also part of a band when she was in college. And Nandita, I must tell you that I also sing for a band, but I'm not for so many years.
And one more reason to get together and do this offline.
Together, isn't it? Yes. So really happy to have you here today.
Likewise.
I'm not going to give away the suspense of Pedru to the children, but I'm definitely going to tell them that the title will just give you the name of the child, right? And it tells you I'm the big boom. And you're wondering, what is the big boom all about, right? But as you read the story, you will realize that a boy who's just about 9, I mean, almost as old as many of you in this group, is about to face an adventure. And he actually accidentally stumbles upon it. And then what he learns through it, what he realizes from it, is something that we're going to discuss today. It's going to be very interesting. And I know all my children, Adita, are very observant. So you will see that when you tell them the story and you interact with them, they will have so many things to talk about too, because they're very, very keen observers. Yeah. So I can't wait to hear the story from you. I'm very lucky. I already got the book. All of you can, of course, grab your copy as well. I'll put the link on the chat and the link also on the WhatsApp group, wherein all of you are there. Now let's move on to Niharika. Niharika is the illustrator of this book. Now, most of us, when we see illustrations, we think of colorful pictures and, uh, drawings and all of that. When I opened this book, I was really mesmerized by the wonderful sketches just in black. So black and white and so gorgeous. I'm going to just pin you, Nandita, so they can actually see you. Yeah, you can hold up the book. So the illustrations are just so gorgeous. And then, we started talking with Niharika and we said, how about you, get children to do this kind of sketching? Everyone does coloring, everyone does drawing. How about just using a black pencil and creating magic? So Niharika is very fond of observing people, observing trees and birds. And she always carries her sketchbook wherever she goes. And she loves to sketch and she loves to illustrate. And she works as a freelance illustrator, mainly illustrating for children's books. She's so fond of illustrating, she's so fond of sketching that she feels very happy when people look at the sketches and, some memories are brought back. And, her art actually makes them feel wonderful.
My father does the same thing because whenever we go to any kind of vada or something, he's actually an architect. So he also takes a sketchbook there and he starts drawing whatever is in front of him. So he makes a portrait of the vada or anything.
Very nice. Actually, what we also do as a practice is whenever we go out, we carry a drawing book with us and some colors. And wherever we sit drawing or coloring or painting. And once when we had been to Sikkim, we actually sat outside a monastery and we found some pieces of coal. And then my kids were sitting and, coloring and we were also drawing something with charcoal. So I was very, very fascinated by the beautiful illustrations made by Niharika, and so decided that, she should do something like this for children as well in this book event. Yeah. So let's begin with the story. Yeah. So Nandita will take you through the story. And I don't have to tell you children, but you're all aware that you will be on mute while Nandita is speaking. Of course, if you have some questions, you're free to raise your hands or you can even ask him. But let's, keep it interesting at the same time, not disturb everyone too much. Got it? All of you thumbs up? Ready? Great. Fantastic. So over to you, Nandita.
Thank you, Vaishali. And likewise, very excited to be back with the story station with my other book today. I'm equally excited to be here with all the wonderful people who put this book together. It takes a lot of people to work on the book. So there's Niharika. And there's also my publisher, Sujata and Tanya, were the editing team that did a wonderful job with me draft after draft in this book. And Sujata is here with us as well today. So it's great to have everyone who worked on the book here to share it with you. And before I transport you all to the world of Pedru, Pedru has an interesting setting. It's set in Goa. Maybe just a quick hands up. How many of you all have been to Goa? Let me try and see. Quite a few hands. Nice. Okay. Can you share with me maybe in like one word, when you shut your eyes, when you picture Goa, when you remember what Goa looked like, can you give me one word that comes to your mind when you think of Goa and what it looks like?
Ocean.
Ocean?
Beaches.
Beaches?
Water.
Water. I see a lot of
Flamingos. Sand. Fishes.
fish.
Old
A lot
and
of salmon.
historic place.
Historic place.
Fishes.
Old Goa, perhaps. Yeah, fish.
Coconuts.
Coconuts, of course. So fantastic. Thank you for that sharing. So yes, today we're all going to transport ourselves to Goa. If not physically, but at least through this story. Imagine that you're going past the swaying coconut palms in this winding road. On both sides of you are lush green paddy fields. Those are the rice fields. And we reach this small, very pretty little village called the village of Ratnagaon. Ratnagaon village, well, it's a fictional village, but really it's like any village in Goa, a beautiful green village. And it's the village that is the home to our hero, Pedru. I'm going to take you. Yeah, can you all see that? That's the cover of our book. And that is Pedru. Meet Pedru. He's 9 years old. He's fun and adventurous. He's feisty. He's quite mischievous. And he calls himself an explorer. Okay, that's the one thing he really likes to do. And before I start reading, I'm going to introduce you a little more to the people in Pedru's life. There you can see Pedru and his gang of friends. There are four of them. The taller one is Babu, that's like his best friend. And the two younger ones are twins, Deepu and Dinu. Okay, so the four of them call themselves a very interesting name, the Khoj Gang. What is Khoj? You all know what Khoj means? Khojna, to search, right? So what do they call themselves? This slightly strange name. Okay, it's because of this game they play. Now, all of you all love to play games, right? Indoor games, outdoor games, you'll have your favorites. But this gang of four boys, they play the same game day in and day out every day. And it's a wild outdoor game. It's quite simple, actually. It's a game of who will find it first. Okay, so every day, someone sets a challenge. And typically that someone is Pedru, because Pedru is like the leader of their gang. Yeah. So Pedru sets a challenge. Who's the first to find, let's say, a flower? A blue flower, a frog as fat as your fist. So these are the kind of challenges, and he every day he comes up with even more creative and interesting challenges. And then these four boys, they scurry over to every part of their village and the hills behind, trying to be the first to find the challenge of the day. So as you can imagine, these boys travel all over outdoors, every nook and corner. His life should be totally carefree, and it almost is, but Pedro has one problem. Okay, and that problem is his mother. Why should his mother be a problem? I'm going to read y'all a little bit from the book, and let's find out. This is one of the first scenes in the book. Okay, Pedro in the Big Boom is a slightly longish chapter book story, so I'm going to be reading a bits and pieces that y'all can put together quite a good idea of the world of the book. Now, in this scene, we have Pedro, who's just returned home, probably from one of those very long coach games of his. And I'll begin. Pedro swung on the creaking gate outside his home. He was waiting for his father to return from his cashew plantations. Is that you, Pedro? Called out his mother. Why are you back so late? Come inside. Pedro's stomach growled. He smelled his Mai's delicious curry cooking inside. Oh, and food, yeah? But wait, I have some important work with Pai, said Pedro. And Mai, who said I'm late? The sun just set. Nonsense, said his Mai. I know when it turned dark. What if, Pedro, what if a coconut had fallen on you while you were walking back? You wouldn't have seen it coming. Oof, his Mai. And here was the problem. She was the biggest worry pot in their whole village. A coconut fall on me? Really, Mai? Relax, Mai. It's more likely that I'll fall off while climbing a coconut tree. Ay, Pedro. That was her favorite thing to say. Ay, how can I relax? Who knows where you roam or what you bring down with that catty of yours, that slingshot. And you can see Pedro up there. He's holding his slingshot. He doesn't go anywhere without it. Pedro just grinned and patted his catapult. Pedro, don't laugh. You may bring down and swallow a poisonous berry. No, no, my. I lick each berry fully clean before I swallow it. He teased her. Aye, Pedro. In future, you get back home before it's dark. What if you get lost? Now, this had to be the world's funniest worry. Pedro laughed so hard, he almost slipped off the gate. Whoever heard of a coach boy getting lost? And now, with all that I told you all about the coach game, you all can understand those boys, they knew every road, every hill, every tree on every road and every hill. So, how would they get lost? So, here I'm going to take a small pause and share something with you. All the way from Goa, one of Pedro's favorite things, and that is his catty, okay, his catapult. And it's quite an interesting design. I don't know if many of you all would have seen one, but this is what Pedro would do, okay? It has this Y design, that's the main frame, and this rubber bit behind, the strip. So he would put something like a smooth round pebble right over here, pull it behind, aim right at the thing that he wanted to bring down, typically his neighbor's mangoes or something like that, and let go, and that pebble would catapult, project, and bring down the thing he wanted. So you can imagine he had a lot of fun with this, but for his
You
mother,
would get a lot of mangoes to eat.
lot of mangoes.
Because the mangoes will get pushed to each other and all of the mangoes will fall down.
Big bunches of fruit would fall down, bora berries, whatnot. But for his mother, this was no toy. This was almost like a weapon. So maybe she had a small reason to get worried, yes, with Pedro and his catty. And in all this, where was his father? Now, his father, remember, he was waiting for his father. His father was very busy all day long in their cashew nut plantation. That was what he did. He had cashew nut plantations. Now, maybe many of you all are like me. You like cashew nuts? Do you like cashew nuts?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah, I can eat them all day. You can have them in curries and sauces, even in butter. But so I'll tell you in some interesting facts, okay? Because there are a lot of cashew nut plantations. Here's a little toy cashew nut brought for you all. These cashews grow on a fruit tree, and these are cashew apples, okay? But this is a false fruit. That's the fun fact. This is a false fruit. It's not a real fruit, because what it does is it connects the real fruit, this thing hanging below, to the cashew nut tree. So actually, this cashew apple is more like a stem. Okay, and now we look at this real fruit. It's like a hard shell, and inside it, that is the cashew nut we eat. So the cashew nut is the seed inside the fruit. Okay, and I'm going to go right back to where we left our story, because we have his father on the plantation, and that brings us to the second problem in Pedro's life. The first was his mother, the worry pot. The second is, what with those cashew nut plantations? Pedro wasn't ever taken anywhere. His father had to be near his plantations all day, day in and day out, month in and month out, every year. Pedro's 9 years old, remember, and he's never been out of Ratnagaon. So one day, he came up with a plan, a coach challenge to top all the coach challenges he ever had. It was such a plan. I'm going to read a little more. At the school gates itself, Pedro grabbed Babu's hand. That's Babu, the tall one in the picture. At the school gates, and he pulled him away. Come on, we're off on an adventure, Babu. Hey, where? We can't run away from school. What if we get caught? Said Babu. Shh, follow me, said Pedro. Clearly, everyone was not a born explorer like him. Smile, Babu. Come on, hold my catapult today. So Babu took the catty, but his brow still remained furrowed. What was Pedro up to? What was this plan? Babu, I've thought of the best coach challenge ever, said Pedro. Just thinking of it made goosebumps rise up on his arms. What's that? Today's challenge is, who's the first to find a new village? A whole new village. Babu's mouth, you can imagine, it just fell open in surprise. Because here was a boy who's never even left Ratnagaon. But we can do it. I have a plan, said Pedro. And sure he did. If you read more details in the book, it was quite a clever plan. It involved cashew nuts, a local baker, a very interesting, though slightly gossipy lady called Magdu Auntie, and it got Pedro what he wanted. he got a fist full of money, a purse full of money. Why did he want money? Let's see. One of the first things he did with the money he had was visit here, this place. Oh, you can see the wonderful Ratnagaon market that Niharika has drawn. For Pedru, it was like an Aladdin's cave full of treasures. I'm going to read. The boys enter the Ratnagaon market, clutching their newly earned coins tight, squeezing past heaps of spices, coins of sausages, and stalls that were heavy with bananas and scaly fish. They slowly unclench their hands. Ice lollies, lips smacking slices of raw mango, of curry dusted with salt and chili powder, a shiny new marble. There were toys, purple candy. It was a day that the boys would never forget. Even Babu by then had forgotten to be nervous and he grinned in giddy glee. And together he sang with Pedro. Explorers, coach, coach, boys are we. New worlds we shall see. Because they'd never felt so brave and bold before their adventure was about to begin. And they still had some money left over after everything they bought at the market. And with that, they bought two bus tickets that were going to take them away to the village that they had never seen before. Their songs and their guffaws grew louder and louder, right until they reached the bus stop. The day was just getting better and better until bump. Pedro ran headlong into his father, into Pi. He was waiting there for them. His lips were set in a thin straight line. That Magdu auntie, she had squealed on them. Oh, the boys had to turn back home. Their precious tickets were torn and crumpled and tossed away. No one takes me anywhere, protested Pedro as Pi pulled him away. No one in our family wants to go anywhere. Pedro, said his Pi, you know how worried your mother gets when you get late. Think of that now, by 10. No, multiply that by 100 times. And now you will know how she felt today. She will be so relieved to see you. Then Mai must have made his favorite dinner. Pedro perked up, but when he reached home, mm, his Mai had turned a peculiar shade of red splotched purple, like a berry that has gone too sour. Meet Pedro's Mai. Pedro, how dare you run away? He rushed to his room before she exploded even more and rocked on his bed, dreading his punishment. He could hear his Mai shouting all the way from the next room. I'm going to keep an eye on that boy now. God knows I'll need 4, 2 in the front, 2 at the back. Had he lost his chance at adventure? Would he be stuck in Ratnagaon forever? He was so upset that he yelled out loud enough for his parents to hear, I hate you all. I hate your stupid casuals. I'm a coach boy. Wait and see. I will find a way to leave. Mai raised his voice. Pedro, you and your coach madness, careful. One day you'll wake up and boom, your punishment will come. I leave it to God. Now, friends, this was very scary. These are scary words for Pedro because you know why? Every time his Mai said these words, I leave it to God. God always found a way to take his Mai's side. Once, a priest had come to complain. Pedro, that boy, he's looting up bora berries from our trees. Mai said, I leave it to God. And you know what? Pedro's catty just mysteriously disappeared for a whole week. Who else but God always made sure he got his punishment? So now Pedro was really nervous. But it took 3 whole days and nothing happened. So he thought he had got away with his mischief. That was until the end of that week. One quiet, unsuspecting morning, a time when everyone was in their beds. And now, friends, the real adventure in this book begins. Boom! A real boom. It rocked their village. It was the sound of an explosion. It threw Pedro out of his bed. What was happening? Was it a volcano? An earthquake? Were aliens invading Ratnagaon? Pedro picked himself and ran outside. And we can see all the villagers of Rothland had come running out and they gathered together. They stared at the hills behind their village. Can you see in the illustration? Something strange going on. And those strange boom noises were coming from those hills. Crush! Were those trees that they heard? Trees were thundering down. Their ears tingled. Close your mouth, Pedru, said his mother. Listen to the noises and horror. Shh, said his father. This is a big company called Big Deep Explorers. Don't worry, all they're doing is digging a big hole in the hills. Why? They're trying to find some metals. Big Deep Explorer? Some new kind of explorer spy? It's called mining, said his spy. It will be okay, don't worry. But y'all know how it is, no? When grown-ups sometimes they say one thing and you look at their face and you know they mean another. His spy said, don't worry. But Pedro had never seen his father looking so worried, or the other villagers. Look at the expressions on their faces. And each and every blast from that hill shook them all and worried Pedro. A cloud of red dust floated away from that hill, came towards him, and stung his eyes. He smacked his forehead. Something had suddenly struck him. He remembered his Mai's words. One day, Pedro, you will wake up and boom, your punishment will come. This is my fault, he cried. My punishment has begun. It's God's punishment. What have I done? And what's this mining shining? What's going to happen now? So I have one last passage to read to you all, which takes place very soon after these booms. But before I do that, since Pedro asked us all a question, I'm going to ask the same to y'all. What's this mining shine? Do any of y'all know what mining is?
Ma'am, mining is when some person is digging for metals like gold, iron, diamonds and all. Or even fossil fuels. They also dig for fossil fuels.
Yes.
There was like a volcano hill.
There was a hill and there was a cloud of dust. It almost resembled a volcano. Very sharp observation.
Yes.
Yes. What was going on? So yes, our earth gives us a lot of wonderful natural resources. Yes, we have air, sunlight, water in our rivers, streams, and we also get from the earth a lot of minerals and metals. And just like you said, these could be iron ore, coal, they could be diamonds and gold and so on. And we use these metals and minerals in things that we make. Tools, equipment, maybe weapons, jewelry. But how do we get these out of the earth? The process by which we
We
remove.
use pickaxes. We use pickaxes to dig.
We used to use pickaxes and dig to get these minerals and metals. But man, as always, with our technology, we move from one to the
Now
other.
drills. Now we use drills.
Machines.
How do
Big
you know
machines.
where are the
We use
metals?
machines and drills.
Yeah.
Excavators and drill machines,
Yeah. So
PB machines.
Right next to our building, there are digging, so I know what kind of machine it is.
Don't even need to imagine. Work goes on in our cities all the time, all sorts of construction work. And even in the mines, yes, they use nowadays these big heavy machines. When we go back to that illustration, you can see near that volcanic looking hill, there were big machines that were making it look almost as if there had been a volcano. So yes,
Yes.
this is the process by which we remove the metals, mining. And there are two types of mining, okay? Very quickly, there's
mining actually near my house for some time. And lots of noise was coming and I didn't like it. I was getting disturbed.
Yeah, it's difficult day-to-day life, the small things that we do and take for granted that we can do, and we can't read or study when there's drilling noise going on. One is the noise, the other is dust. We were in Delhi for the launch of this book, where Shali shared with you, and that previous week there had been so much pollution and entering everyone's houses. Again, it just changed their lives. So you can imagine the villages of Rothland, there was dust and noise, and neither would stop. Okay. That's what happened to them, because the kind of mining going on there was open air mining. Okay, it's where you mine right at the surface of the earth in large open air pits. No, no, type of mining where they go and they make tunnels, they dig deep down. They'll create a shaft that is underground mining. But in Goa, what was going on here was surface mining, right on the surface. So yeah,
And the things that are used in surface mining are usually dynamites or other explosive
yes, to
material.
blast the surface. And now let us for a moment imagine what that does to the earth around, to the immediate environments, the surrounding plants, animals, vegetation, and villagers like the villagers of Ratnagaon, right? Imagine this blasting, drilling, excavating going on. So in my last passage, you don't have to imagine it too much anymore. I'm going to read a little bit to you of what exactly the villagers of Ratnagaon went through. Okay. Chapter 7, Trouble in Rothland. Now, that morning was just the beginning of months of crazy changes, of Pedru's punishment. Those first booms, they turned into non-stop drilling and digging, and that began non-stop troubles for the villagers. Pedro tried to talk to his Mai. But when would this all end? But he couldn't. You know why? There was just too much noise. How deep a hole were those miners digging? At home, they couldn't hear each other above all that din of the drilling. Stop mumbling! Go to school, his Mai would yell. So he went to school. At school, they again couldn't hear each other because of the sound of the roaring trucks. Those were trucks who were carrying the iron ore to and fro from the mines to the rivers where they would be carried away. Mines to the rivers, long lines of never ending trucks. So, go home, his teachers would yell. And when he went back home, once again, that sound of the mining carried on till late in the night so loud, by the end of the day, Pedro couldn't hear his own voice in his head. He's going mad. And by the next morning, they would all wake up with headaches. The second problem was the dust kicked up by all that digging. And you can see it so beautifully illustrated in Niharika's illustration over there. You can just imagine that red dust flying all about, and it got everyone hopping mad. Day by day, month by horrid month, red dust and silt scattered everywhere. It blew around their homes, piled up in the paddy fields and the cashew plantations, played havoc with their heads. Even Mai, who could deal with almost anything, she couldn't deal with that dust. She was always irritable. She had to clean her house 3 times every day. The only good part, there is a small good part, she was so busy, she hadn't realized this was all Pedro's fault. Oh, our poor Pedro, till now he's thinking of that boom and God's punishment. And he was wondering, should he point out the obvious that all of this was him because of him? Should he apologize? Would that stop it? Or if he points it out too clearly, would he get all the blame for bringing in these noisy outsiders? Shoo, go out and play, said his Mai, shaking her broom away. He skipped out before she changed her mind and he got together his coach gang. What could they do? What can one small boy do in such a situation against the mighty miners? Okay, we're going to pause our story right here because I think now we've got a good feel for Pedro's world before and after troubles hit Ratnagaon. And we'll come back to it and some activities later in the session. But this is a lovely time to pause. And while we're looking at the illustration, I'll pass on to Niharika, who's going to take you through how she deep dived into Pedro's world, Goa mining, and how she dreamt up all these beautiful illustrations you all have been looking at. Yeah, Niharika, over to you.
Hello, everybody. It's so nice to be here, and I'm so excited that you found some point of interest in this book. So I thought let me just share my screen, and I will talk a little bit about my experience in illustrating the book. So when I first read the story, I was so excited because, as Vaishali was saying, I really enjoy sketching people. And this story is full of interesting characters like Pedru and the coach gang, and his Mai and Pai, his parents. So first, when you read the story as an illustrator, you look for qualities. Every person has their own qualities. Like Pedru, for example, he has a love for adventure. He's very fun-loving, and you think about how a person with these qualities will look. So you make a lot of rough sketches when you're illustrating. You draw full body sketches, so you know what your character looks like, and you also draw a lot of expressions. This is just pencil on paper, so you know what a character will look like. So what will Pedro look like if he's angry, if he's sad, if he's surprised? So you continue to do this until you get a feel for what Pedro will look like. And so I thought he would look something like this. I thought maybe Pedro will have this kind of a hairstyle. He will have a free sort of a body language, the way he sits, the way he stands, what kind of clothes does he wear. So like this, I began on the process of illustrating the characters. I really enjoyed drawing Mai and Pai also because they're so spirited. Mai, she's always caring about Pedro. Even though Pedro calls her a worry pot, she's always very concerned about him. And I'm sure that's a lot of things we can relate to. Our mothers are also like that, right? So I try to bring those qualities in the way they stand, the way they laugh, and Pai, he's so passionate about what he believes in, and it just shows in the way they walk and talk. So I first began with the characters, and then as an illustrator, the setting also was so lovely. It's in Goa. And for me, a huge point of connection was the way Nandita shows change, from in the beginning of the book, they live a certain kind of life. Like, for instance, this image on the left that you see, there's more harmony with the environment. They have some traditional occupations. There are clam fishers. This is a clam fishing activity that we're shown in this illustration. And then when the mining comes in, when the activity actually begins, you see how their way of life changes and how they sacrifice many things in the process. Like Nandita was saying, the red dust gets into their eyes and it causes a lot of pollution. There's a lot of noise. They lose out on good health. They also lose out on things like playing football. They stop having these Khoj gang activities where they're going discovering for new things, right? So how inconsiderate human activity affects us all. That was a point of connection for me when I was illustrating. I think this illustration sums it up for me because they, actually I've seen a lot of videos of villages where in Goa where they had this kind of beautiful landscape completely raised down because of mining. All this greenery, all this beautiful plant life just being gobbled up by the excavators, drilling machines and all that. Even though I have not experienced mining myself, I know something about how cities and places change because of human activity. I made this little doodle a few months back because 22 years ago, when we moved to Bangalore, we had a lot of trees, like in this first image. But then slowly, as more activity started to happen, more buildings started to come up. I think Nia was talking about how there's a lot of building activity happening around her house, right? So when that happens, you see how the number of trees just keeps going down until there's no green cover. So I think all of us have experienced this in some way, right? Even though we have had experiences like Pedru in our own life. So I tried to bring that in also in the illustration. This is one of the illustrations that we had seen earlier of the Ratnagaon market. So I thought, so when we first read the story as illustrators, you draw this sketch like on the left.
You've done the same sketch with two different colors, right?
So this image on the left, it's a rough sketch. And this is the final sketch. So this first on the left side, what you see, that's just to get an idea of what things will look like. And then finally you develop on it. And I really like drawing market scenes because, I can fill it with a lot of details. There's always food in markets. And for this, I actually relied on some of my memories of Goa. So I visited Goa plenty of times. These are some of the photos that I've taken there. This is one of Madgaon market. Then Nandita was talking about the baker, right? And there you get beautiful baked breads like pois and paos. And if you ever go to Goa, I suggest that you try some of those. And so I relied on some of my photographs in order to make the illustrations. And then I was inspired by this artist called Mario Miranda, and I was doing these illustrations. He works only in black and white. So for me, it was very challenging because working only in black and white is very difficult to show many things, right? So, but Mario Miranda does a great job of, I don't know, are you guys able to see this?
Yes.
Yeah, he uses black and white, but see how interesting he's made it, he's captured a lot of the place. He's made it very interesting with this technique called cross hatching that he uses. You see how he's just used lines? You can see it, right? He's used only lines. He's not used any outline.
We call this.
This is called cross hatching. This technique is called cross hatching. And I tried to use this in one of the illustrations. I think you saw this earlier also. So in this technique, what you do is you use one set of lines in one direction. Like I think you can see it on the left side, right? And then you keep adding lines in different directions so that you create more shadow. Have you ever used something like this? Any of you?
No.
Would you like to try it?
No.
Yes.
Yes.
So if you can get a piece of paper and a pencil, we can try something out, yeah?
I have a piece of paper with me right now.
Okay.
Me too.
They can ask to keep a paper and pencil, so they'll have it with them.
I have my sketchbook here. And I'll be using a pen because I don't think a pencil will show up on camera. But you guys can do the same thing with a pencil, okay? Cool.
Niharika, I love the last sketch that you showed because using the cross hatching, just the little portion where you did not sketch at all, it looked like it was light. They were carrying that lantern. It was so beautiful.
Thank you.
Can we
So
begin?
have you all got pencil and paper with you?
Yeah, I think they all have it.
So we'll start. We'll make a Goan landscape, and we'll try to see what cross hatching has to offer us. Okay. So we could begin by drawing just a line, a baseline. Okay. Maybe we'll draw some coconut trees. Yeah. You think we can begin?
Yes.
Okay. So what we usually do is you draw like this, right? You draw an outline. Then you draw like the base. What we'll do is we'll just use lines. Can you see? We are not drawing the outline, but we're suggesting the shape with the lines inside. Okay, so we'll try and do that.
I can't do that. It's very difficult. Can I do it with just?
Sure. If you like, you can also do this. You can draw like an outline and then you can fill it in. Do you think you could do that? So you have these fronds, right? Coconut palm fronds. Then you can just add it to the base. like a tree, right? And then we'll have another one here. Now, actually what we do is in cross-hatching, let's say we want to make this darker, this tree, then you add lines on the opposite direction. So that's why it's called cross-hatching, right? Because you're crossing them. I don't know if you can see it. Is it visible?
Yes.
So now you created a more darker, it's a stronger form, the tree, I think. What else would you like to add?
A sun.
A sun? So we usually draw a sun like this, right? We have an outline. Let's try doing it in a different way. Let's keep the sun empty. Let's keep it in white. Let's just draw these lines around it. You see?
It's like stitches.
It's like stitches, yeah. So you see, because of the surrounding lines, you can see this white space in between that makes it look like the sun. It's a different technique. It's a fun technique. Instead of using outlines, you can use background lines to make the shape.
Hello? Hello?
Hello? Yes?
Can I use crayons?
Oh, definitely, you can.
Okay.
Generally, the thing is when you use pencils, it becomes a little bit easier to build one line on top of another.
Oh. Okay.
Is there anything else you'd like to add to this landscape?
A river.
Okay.
And some houses.
Okay, let's try doing a house in the same technique where we don't have an outline, right? Let's see. Instead, we'll make a bush behind it, which will make it look like there's a house in front. You can draw like a cloud shape, greenery usually has these rounded forms, right?
Yes.
So you see there's no outline, but you can still see the form of a house. Maybe we'll add like a little window in here. So you see what I'm saying? It's not always necessary to have outlines. Maybe we can make it a little darker around, like a shadow. Can you see it?
In the stems of the trees, can I draw it like in small lines like the sun?
Oh, definitely. I think that will look really nice. I'd like to see once you're done with it. So I'm going to try doing that too.
Ma'am, I want to add a person.
Yeah, that would be so nice. You can go ahead. I'd really love to see what you guys have come up with.
As you finish making it, you can hold up, your little picture. So Niharika, Nandita, all of us can have a look at it.
Can I see your
You want to see the drawing? Edwell till part 2.
With the sun, how many layers of the lines we have to draw?
Where?
In the sun.
In the sun? I think I've drawn about 5.
Okay.
But that's up to you.
Ma'am, I'm done.
Oh, that's great.
I'm done.
Nandita, do we move on to the next part of the session? Or
I'm done.
Ma'am, I'm
Let
done.
us all their works apart and
yeah.
then take it from there. Yeah.
I'm done.
I'm done.
Okay. Oh,
Not
how
done.
nice.
I'm not done.
Beautiful, Amar.
Tried to make a house, but it didn't come out as good as yours.
Oh, I
Ma'am,
really like it though. It's such a beautiful
I made
sun.
a house, a coconut tree and sun and a house and a
Thank
boat.
you.
Oh, how lovely. So good to see all this. It's beautiful. Nivod, right? Yeah, it's nice.
Denia's holding up her work. You can see that.
I really love it, Nia. I just love the sun. So vibrant.
Give you all 1 minute because then we move to Nandita. So we can go ahead with the story.
Vaishali auntie.
Okay, just one more. 1 minute. Just one last minute.
Can I draw a door to the house?
Yes.
I'm drawing the animals which can be found in the house. It's a forest I'm drawing.
Wow, that would be so nice. I'd like to see it
Also,
once.
there's one waterfall in the mountain far, far away in the forest.
Oh wow, yeah. Oh, how nice. You added birds too. I really like that detail. What's your name?
She's Kavya.
Kavya. Okay.
You know what we can do? We'll go ahead with the session. And then when we're left with a couple of more minutes, you can again show your drawings, okay? So can we go ahead with the story? Or if you can put aside your paper and your pencils for some time now.
Yeah, we actually going to do
Yes.
something different. Yeah. So I think Niharika has shown us a wonderful way of how we can use space so differently. And I'm sure we'll all be using bits and pieces of that technique in our art going forward.
Can I show my drawing
Please,
and
Shakti.
complete with you?
Do hold it up. Lovely. Lovely. And you'll have all brought a little bit of Goa into our screens with your lovely painting, our lovely drawings. So the part I
I
really
want to
enjoyed-
ask something, Vaishali auntie. Vaishali auntie, in yesterday's Chiku Piku, there was a poem from Kavya Kulkarni. Was it written by Kavya?
Yes, it was written by Kavya.
Okay, wow, we have budding poets in the house. Lovely. And something I really enjoyed in Niharika's slide was how she spoke to us about all her influences and research and all the bits and pieces that go into when we are creating something, be it art, be it a story. So what I wanted to do very briefly, 5 minutes, was share with you all the inspiration behind this story. Just give me a sec. Yeah. Can you all see this one? So what I wanted to share with you all was
Our screen is not visible.
Yeah, your screen is not visible.
Yes, yes, their screen is not visible.
okay. I can see it.
Ma'am, you haven't shared screen.
You should be able to. I mean,
Yeah, ma'am, you haven't shared the screen.
just give her a minute, okay? 1 minute, children. Yeah, I'll just try it.
Is that better?
Yes, yes, visible now.
Yes, yes.
Okay, so as you can see from this image, we are going back to Goa, but this time we're not going to any fictional village called Ratnagaon. We're going back that same lovely paths, the coconut palms are swaying, the green hills, but I'm going to talk about two real villages in Goa. And both of these in some way were the inspiration for Ratnaga, for our story, because the true life stories of mining villages in Goa and what happened there. Yeah. So I also wanted you all to see the real stories behind the story. Let's start with Sonshi. Okay. It's a tiny, very pretty, sweet, small village. It has 60 households, one primary school and one playground. That is the village of Sonshi. And mostly everyone there had paddy fields, that's the green rice fields, or they had cashew nut plantations. And then a lot of mining activity started nearby. Like the big booms we saw in the Pedru story.
What is the name of this village?
Sonshi, Sonshi. Sonchi. It's in the eastern belt of Goa. When many of us visit as tourists, we typically are in the north and to the west. This is on the eastern side. And that, friends, is what's left of Sonchi's hills today. That's what the hills actually look like. In the middle, that big water body you see, that is actually the open air pit where they've done their mining process, and all around are these hollowed out hills. Later in our story, Pedru, who tries all sorts of things to save his village, not all of them succeed. One of the things he does is very daring and brave. He goes right into the mining pits to confront the miners. And that image, was in my mind when I thought of how that poor brave young boy actually went to see what he could do. And so over the years, decades and decades of mining actually went on here, and they all came to depend on some way or the other on this mining industry. Big long lines of trucks would of course go to and fro, and you've seen the illustration from the book. So here's the big machines working on the mining, children going to that one government school. And here's what actually happened. With all the noise and the dust, many children dropped out of their schools. So the attendance went down so badly, they had to temporarily shut that school. Because can you imagine, you're like this boy, you're going in the heat and the dust, and there's one machine behind you, one truck going to the left of you. In school, you can't hear what's going on. This actually happened. These are true stories. Later in Pedru and the Big Boom, you'll hear of another problem they all had to deal with, and that was water. And in this village, they had wells, and they all dried up. They all dried up because the miners, they went much deeper than they should have. They hit groundwater levels and below, and sucked all their, that's the source of water for their streams, rivers, wells. They sucked all that dry. So now the villagers, they didn't have their fields. They didn't have, the food from their fields. They didn't have water. They didn't have education. They didn't have basics. So many of them, some of them left. So even in that small 60 household village, many of them left, went to cities. And the ones left, what could they do? If you can't beat them, join them. You've heard that phrase. So many of them began getting associated in one way or the other with mining. Either they actually left their fields, leased it out to miners, and began working in the mines, working as security guards, actually driving the trucks. This is what they themselves were doing. Selling water. Those are big water drums for a village that always had well water. Now they were buying water from outside and selling water, that kind of thing, So let's hear it directly from some of the villagers here. You're going to see a lot of names saying Gaude, because here's a fun fact. Almost everyone in that village had the surname Gaude. So 45-year-old Kusum Gaude, and these are her words. We were literally eating dust. I had to clean my house at least 3 times a day. That's just like Pedru's Ma, is it not? It's funny how fiction sort of imitates fact. The dust was everywhere. It entered our rooms, it sat on our utensils, it went inside our food, yuck, our water. It was part and parcel of our lives. And then let's hear from Sandeep Gaude. He says, all of this used to be green. All of this were his cashew nut plantations. And we used to have cashew nut plantations where you now see hills of dump. Okay, what are these dump? Okay, these, I told you how they have to dig to get iron ore. Well, it's an interesting ratio. For every 1 ton of iron ore that, you pulled out of mines, there were 3 tons of other mud and waste and silt that comes out. And where do you keep all that when you're digging? It creates big hills of this dump and silt. And where do you keep all those hills and mounds of, it's sort of washed into fields and, neighboring areas. So everywhere you went, there were these huge mounds of dump. And that's what he's referring to. Now, the stuff in blue were, things that people said as the mining started. They were pretty much at a stage where Pedru was, and he wanted to see what could be done before it gets too late. Because when it gets too late, then we see what people were saying to the right in red. There was a man who had his own paddy fields, but ever since mining stopped, what did he turn to? He actually started opening his house as a hotel for miners who came to stay there and things like that. And then, friends, they all protested, this village, many other villages, because there were almost 90 mines in Goa. And something happened in Goa at 2 points in the last decade. Mining was banned. Mining was banned for a while and then a long while. And isn't that wonderful news for Sonshi? Yes and no. Yes and no, because they were at a point at which mining had eaten into their lives. And by then they were dependent on the mining. So if they were truck drivers working in the mines, you had Chandrakant whose house had become a hotel. So now even that shut down. So it was like they were troubled twice over. And so therefore, all the more we understand what Pedro was trying to do at the early stages of mining, so that his village never got to a point like Sonshi where they couldn't go back to what they did, and what they were doing also shut down. And I'll end with the words of Ravindra Dilip, who says Sonshi is now on the verge of extinction. Okay, we've heard of dodos going extinct, we've heard of birds and animals and maybe rare plants, but a village on the verge of extinction. A lot of people have already migrated to cities. There's no water. There's nothing left for village folk. What do you call such a place? And you know that really is the sort of dread with which they live. A small case study of another village, and this one got a little luckier. It's a village called Shirgaon, and just like Sonshi, it was a little bigger than Sonshi. So I think there were about 400 odd households there, a little bigger. But they were surrounded by green hills behind. So, Niharika shared how personally she had links with Goa. Well, likewise, my father was born and brought up in Goa. Every summer, as we grew up, we went back to Goa always and spent almost a month. We were taken from house to house, uncles, aunts, cousins, everyone from Goa. I'm from Goa. And over the years, I would really see this change. So much development, and some of it is for infrastructure, hotels, entertainment zones. Some of it is for building, some of it is for stuff like mining projects everywhere you went, and naturally the landscape itself changed, right, over so many years. So that is what we saw happening in Shirgaon as well, because it's such beautiful greenery behind. uh, it became a magnet for mining companies, and in fact not one but three companies started mining activities behind Shirgaon. And then we saw the same old story. They had 74 wells, all 74 wells dried out. These are facts. This is what actually happened. They had the dust, the trucks, all of it. And then the same thing happened. Mining stopped in Goa. It was banned. But they got a little luckier because the damage was not as much as it had been in Sonshi. So all the farmers got together and they said, what can we do to preserve, to save our land? Is there anything we can do to regenerate, restore our land? And they began working on that, and they began bringing back the machines, but this time to desilt their fields, which means that all the hills, remember I spoke of the mounds and hills of dump that were on, had sort of leaked into all their fields. This time the machines desilted the fields, took away and dredged out all that soil. And here you see farmers replanting in their fields. And I'm ending on a happy picture, at least for this village, where now they are cultivating back again and their paddy fields back again after mining has stopped. But this was Shirgaon. This is not the case for every village that can. It's only a few who could still restore their land. Um, so what do we do? I mean, we really understand and empathize with someone like Pedro, who's seen his beautiful green hills, the hills where he played his coach games, that have drastically changed, were changing before his eyes. And was there anything he could do, to arrest this even before it just got too late?
Didn't Pedro get to play because of the dust and all of that?
He didn't even want to play. Even if his mom said, go out.
And that's really sad.
It was unbearable to be outside. They didn't even feel like playing anymore. And, their lives changed because, you saw the beautiful picture of the clam fishermen. Yeah. Their fathers were clam fishermen. Now the clams weren't coming anymore in the rivers and streams. So there was no work for their fathers. Those who were working in the fields, they, the fields, all that slush was coming in. So, for example, the cashew nuts, if you read this book a little further, you'll find out that the cashew nuts were not coming on the trees anymore. His beloved Pai, he was going every day to work and coming back in tears saying, look at this, my father and my father before me, we worked on these fields for years, and now I might actually have to stop and go. So all sorts of problems happen, and the
But
problems
if
affect
some people wouldn't have started opening restaurants for the miners, then their job wouldn't have worked, and I mean their job wouldn't have stopped, and then they wouldn't have felt so as bad as they felt actually. What you told us right now.
Yeah. So their way of life does change, when some of this activity begins around, and those who sort of go,
That's why my mother says humans are the most stupid things on the whole world.
I didn't get that. What is stupid?
Human
Human.
and humans' jobs are really stupid in the whole world.
Sometimes they really can be. Sometimes they really can be. Some of these projects, that we get in, when we see the impact they have before our very eyes, are we blind to see that? And still we don't draw the line, and still we go further and push further, and we always want more, without seeing the impact on nature around us. And we don't stop until we begin feeling the impact back on us, because dear friends, all of this does come back. You all must be in school talking about some of these things: climate change, deforestation, and the impact it has back on us, flash floods and all sorts of, right? You must be seeing some of the things changing around us today, and maybe it's then that our eyes will wake up to see the effects of our activities. Yeah, so this was in my mind very much, when I wrote this story. It's this, on one level, yes, it's a story of this adventure that Pedru has, and won't he, can he do something to save his village? But really it is these real life stories, real life heroes, that inspired this story. I think Vaishali, should we just have some more Q&A at this point?
To tell that
Sorry, you just a little louder.
one time I had gone out where there were trees, and then the next time I had gone there, all the 600 trees had gone. Vishali auntie, we actually were not able to hear anyone.
Can't hear that, sorry.
Can you hear me?
Yes, clearly.
Read that loud. Come to this.
I wanted to tell that one time me and my mother had gone out.
It was by the river.
It was by the river, and then we were going, and there were many trees. So that the next time we went, there were no trees. All the 600 trees had cut. For building some construction.
Yes, absolutely.
So this is
Absolutely.
at a very prime property in Pune. We used to go for river walks, and when we went, we used to do birding and go by the river and tell stories. The next time we went there, it was all overnight because the citizens were very aware. They came to know about it, they stopped it, but by then it was too late. About 600 or 700 trees had already been cut. And that was to, I think it was for a metro project, or it was for, having some new buildings over there.
Bolare, the date in Bombay.
Even when a building was getting constructed here, so what happened, there were a couple of trees there and plants there. So those all trees and plants got cut off, and then they made the brand new building. And it was so noisy, when the new building was getting made.
Yes, even right next to our building, there's construction going on. If the excavators were digging like thuk 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 thuk
Yeah,
thuk,
correct.
all the day we couldn't hear, we couldn't speak anything, we couldn't watch any movie, we couldn't read also.
Yeah, at that
There's
time.
too
And there's
much noise.
longer term, long lasting damage, which we may not immediately realize, even when the noise has died down, even when the dust has died
I
down.
want to draw Pedru and the dust and all of the noise. And he's doing like this. I want to really draw that.
Yeah.
When it's time to log out, can I show you a couple of my drawings and then log out?
Please, I would love to. And I'm so glad you brought up Pedro, because I want to say one thing. Some humans can be quite stupid. I couldn't have put it better. But, I didn't just write the story like like a sci-fi, the things are coming to an end, we should all be so worried. It wasn't just that. It was actually because I believe some humans can also take matters in their own hands and do things.
I don't know why can't some people understand that trees are getting cut off. They are cutting so beautiful things. They are spoiling nature.
In their own small way, there are people, there are movements, communities getting together and saying, let's not wait for someone else to do something. Even in Goa, I spoke about Goa. Right now, there is a big movement going on. Save Molam, a lot of people together.
Some governments friends tell them that this is good, this is good, this is good. Because some people think that that's our job. Now there's nothing bad in our job. There's nothing bad in our job. And they just cut off trees.
Some people have intentions to do bad things and they fool others.
Yeah.
So, for a minute, just when we're talking about good and bad, let's take, for example, iron ore mining. Okay, so they were digging for this iron ore, but why? Why do we need this iron ore? Why are they digging for iron ore? What are they doing with it? That is their job, but why are they doing their job in the first place? Any thoughts?
Selling it on the market. Selling it on the market.
And what do we make with it? And yes, they sell it in the market. People buy
Money.
and we make things with iron, right? And with all of the minerals and metals I spoke about, we make equipment, tools, cars require metals. There are very few
Utensils.
So as long as we're using these cars and utensils and maybe jewelry, we will always need minerals and metals. So what do we do about this? What do we do about this? Does that make them good or bad if they're giving us what we think we need?
We can use them, but we can't waste too much of them.
That is one wonderful thought. Imagine if we didn't need as much, they wouldn't need to dig as much. Maybe we can. Yeah.
We can't. We don't need jewelry. We don't need jewelry.
Need that much jewelry. Very good. Perhaps we don't need that much. There are two wonderful words in English, need and want. And very often the things we want are not really necessarily the things we need. We may need some of it, but do we need that much? So really, before we talk about who's good and bad, always ask why. So why are they doing that? Why is that bad man building a hotel in Goa and cutting down 5 trees?
First, I used to go to other school. So in that school, my ma'am told me there that, Nia, you are a very curious girl and keep asking questions, because asking questions is not a bad thing. You should never be shy. If you ask more questions, then you will get to know.
Spot on here, spot on. So if we all this book is all about digging. So if we dig a little deeper, we see it's not black and white. Things are never black and white. There's a little gray question about why we are digging, why we are constructing, why we are
You
building.
said that this story is about digging. So then why is the title of the book's name Pedru? Because it's about digging, right?
There's a big boom. Don't forget the rest of the title. It's not just about Pedru, it's Pedru and the big boom and how he dealt with that. Yeah, so I just, Vaishali, wanted to also leave them with this one thought, about why in the first place, all these projects and activities, because as long as all of us want more jewelry, more hotels to stay, all of that, some demand is good, but when is enough? When do we need versus what we want? How can we reuse what we already have, for example? So of what's made out of iron ore, we're talking about iron ore, so much lands up in landfills and junkyards. So if we
even my mother said, Nia, do you want this toy or do you need this toy?
And that small little question, Nia, may have saved the demand for iron ore or some copper metal or something that went into that toy somewhere, which meant that one miner had to dig a little less. Thank you for that.
Yes, same with my mother. I have to ask her I tell her many a times I want this toy. Mama says, "Do you really need it? Do you really need it?" And then after a long thinking, then I get that toy.
So it does sound like most mothers. So I think whenever minors are about to go mining, they should go and talk to their mothers. No? Then we are
For
little.
all this time, because she told Nia, do you need this or do you want this? Because now I'm getting to tell you that.
That's right. But you know, that's very true. Like what Nandita said, so many of us, it's very easy for us to say, oh, we should not dig this, we should not do that, we should not plug this, we should not build that. But at the same time, we also want to live comfortably. At the same time, we also want to go to a nice hotel and then we go to Goa and we live. At the same time, we also want to have big bridges which are built for us so that our travel becomes easy. So there's always this question in our mind that how can we balance the things? Can we just give up everything and start living again like we were living in the forests? It's a little difficult, isn't it? Because now we've all advanced. We're all living a particular lifestyle. At the same time, the kind of lifestyle that we're leading, are we going to go in the same way, in such a way that tomorrow my grandchildren will not have anything? And they may not even have forests to go back to live in. You know, so then what are we going to do? So like Nia said, or like I think most mothers, like even Lavanya's mother said, to understand how much.
Some places are still like beautiful with trees, flowers, plants, cactuses, succulents. They have wild varieties of plants.
That's right.
Some places are like that still, but many places just like that have got spoiled because of mining. But some places are really lucky and fortunate that they're still there.
So you must remember
So they can still live.
that not all humans are stupid.
Yeah.
There are some
Some people are good also.
See, there are some humans like Pedru in this story.
Yes.
That though wrong things are
Right.
happening, they go and see what is the right thing to do. So that's very important for all of us to realize that whenever we see something, we
All the people should think like that.
yes, all the people should be like that, but then all the people are not like that. But then we can be like that, and then if each of us think to be like that, then there'll be many people like that.
Change starts with us.
Right? So always remember, you all are small. Whenever you talk about change, first you have to be the change. You can always tell somebody else to do 20 things. But if you do one small thing and you continue doing it and you believe in it, a lot of changes can really happen. I can see somebody from Nishikant's camera who wants to. Yeah.
How long is this meeting?
This is going to finish in the next 5 minutes or so. It all depends on how much we discuss, what all we talk about.
Actually, we have karate classes, so it's
Other class you can log off, but we are also going to log off in 2 minutes. But before I go, I want to thank Niharika. I want to thank Nandita that you brought this book and the illustrations alive through this session for us. It's very interesting, Nandita, the way you left us wanting to know what happens next in the story. I'm going to post the link. This book is published by Kalpavriksh, and we have Sujata Padmanabhan. Many of you have met her before in our previous and very old book readings as well, and some of you have met her at the story station also. So I would like to thank Sujata for again picking Story Station to host this event. And as always, we're always thrilled to have children like you who participate, who ask questions, who make these lovely illustrations, and who also have so many questions, like not just curious Nia, but so many of you are curious as well. So thank you for joining us this evening. And
all kids should be curious. Now?
Yes, you can log off. No problem.
No, can we show our pictures before we log out? If you're interested, I'll show you my drawings.
Hold up your drawings. Your screen
Yes,
is
please
visible.
hold up your drawings.
Yeah.
Ania, first let everyone hold up what they have drawn for today. Then you can.
Oh, yeah. Okay. दम खा मैडम जी
so many different versions of the same drawing, isn't it? It's just so heartwarming to watch it.
Yeah, it's so lovely.
And I really like the style which you taught us, teacher, of drawing.
I'm so happy. I'd like to see more of your drawings done that way.
That book of drawing of Mario Miranda, but I don't know why or where.
You do? Oh.
Because I remember seeing it a long time ago, but I will try to ask my mother and find it, and maybe next class I can show it to you if you're there.
How lovely. Yes, I like that very much. Thanks.
I'm more than happy to email it.
But how can I contact you?
Everyone through me, and you can
Hello, 533.
at the send it, okay?
I should happen yellow printed.
Okay, those
So
who
I'll show you
longer, we will say bye-bye to Nandita, we'll say bye-bye to Niharika and to Sujata, and of course to me as well. So bye-bye, thank you for
Bye.
And thank you all.
Bye.
Then I can show you my drawings.
Yes,
Yeah,
you.
no,
So this is one girl which I just made.
mermaid girl.
Mhm.
And then there's an owl drawing which I really wanted to show you. So,
Oh, how nice. I like what you've done with the wings.
Yeah.
They're really nice. What colors did you use?
You can do is you can do
I used
Pencil colors.
pen and pencil and glitter pens and stamp.
you should try Niharika's style on all your drawings and see how different they will look.
Yeah.
All right, so bye-bye all of you. Let's see you again with another program next time. Thank you.
This girl.
Bye-bye.
Ma'am, can I also show one drawing?
Okay.
Matt, we're leaving.
Right, then I'm going to log off.
Whoever show drawing.
Vaishali auntie, I myself Vaishali auntie, I have myself invented a new style of drawing.
Okay.
So we have to take a already printed with a drawing paper. Even if it's colored or not, it doesn't matter. And we have to hold it in front of tube light, and we have to draw with the shadow of it.
Oh, that's interesting.
I drew this unicorn
Oh, wow.
by the of this unicorn.
Oh, okay. Okay.
The shadow, lovely.
Very nice. Those who want to log off can log off. I'm also going to sign out now. You don't have to wait for me to leave. You can just leave the meeting. No problem at all. Okay. Bye, everyone.
We're leaving.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye. Just wait.
The stories that you tell us are really good.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Bye, everyone. Bye, Aradhana. Shravi, can you log off? Bye-bye.
Bye, Vaishali auntie.
Bye-bye. To get them to say bye is a little tough.
I don't want to leave.
And actually, Mia has just become a part of this, the story stationery activity. So she is the one who's very, talkative because all this is so new. Last time, remember Sujata, she said that log off. I don't want to go.
Yeah, I remember her.
Yeah.
I remember some of the faces from the sessions.
So I think, more and more Mia starts coming, she'll get into the groove of, what happens. It's so exciting for all of them. And there are so many books that these children read because they've been with me for 4, 5, 6 years and all. They feel they're very fascinated to meet authors, illustrators, publishers because they're like, these are superheroes for them, and to see them in person like this and to talk to them.
So great what you do. I can imagine. I mean, we didn't have so many opportunities when you were young, but if I had met anyone who had read a book I liked,
I don't know what I would have done if I would have met
you.
you.
What you're doing, yeah.
But nice session. Very nice session.
Lovely session.
Very nice
session. Till an hour and a half, and then I suddenly noticed There wasn't even time for all the for that last activity because they were talking so much, and I wanted that discussion. Over doing an activity. So.
All the children showed their drawings, so I just did not show mine.
How nice. You also made one.
When they started showing their work, I said, no, it's okay. I'll just keep putting aside and show it at the end.
Yeah, but that was also a nice activity, like to show them a new technique.
Oh, yeah.
Very nice, very nice.
Thanks.
Wonderful. Very nice, very nice. And I love all the parts that you picked also, Nandita, for the telling of the story. It kind of set the whole tone and it connects you to Pedru. It makes it more real. So,
And also the actual villages, that was also really good.
Yeah, just that to connect even with Sundarbag when we do that, when I talk of the dream grove, suddenly I see the light in the eye because it's something real. It's no longer just a story. Yeah. And even the pictures put up.
I think the flow for today's session was really nice.
very nice.
Very nice flow, the way it went. So good. Thanks both of you, and of course Vaishali as always.
Thank you.
Vaishali's been a constant supporter.
I am so thrilled that every time you call me and I get to read these books, and my kids read, they're excited because no, and for them it's like nobody else has read it yet. They're fascinated by all of that. So thank you very much, and I hope we can meet soon.
Yeah.
See you at Litbug soon.
Yes. Bye. Bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye. Bye.